They're very good people. They treat me so well.
Hey, this is Michael Russ again, Zero Adversity, author of Zero Adversity, founder of Zero Adversity Training, and I operating this incredible Zoom conference. It's called Beyond the 3D. This is one of the inaugural episodes of Beyond the 3D. Now, what Beyond the 3D means is basically living from a higher level, a higher purpose, actually stepping outside of events and kind of looking at them from a higher perspective so that you can, in essence, see them from a different angle and give yourself, open up pathways to creativity, inspiration as far as to handle solutions to these particular issues, or just live life on a happier, more fulfilling basis, more passionate basis. My guest today and co-host, occasional co-host with me just about all the time, is Glenn Brooks. He is the founder of Unscripted Power. He is also the developer of soul-to-soul matchmaking. He's a visionary and incredible human being who basically takes life to a whole new level, especially when it comes to living life from a health perspective and a mental perspective. He's just absolutely awesome. Glenn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now listen, today's show is entitled From Striving, to Thriving, Striving to Thriving. And I wanted to start out just with a really, really short story of a friend of mine who, this young lady back about 15 years ago, I had met for the first time. And in between then and now, she's had breast cancer. I mean, she went from doing really well, having a nice paying job, having her own one-bedroom apartment, really nice, living life, having fun with friends, to being diagnosed with breast cancer. She had a double mastectomy. She lost every dime that she had. Not only that, to compound the issue, she had also in the driveway DUI. In the driveway.
Really? In the driveway?
They actually pull up behind her in her driveway and said, "Hey, have you been drinking?" It's just ridiculous. So that cost her money. She ended up paying for that for years.
No, she needed a good lawyer to say this is absurd.
It's amazing, going on Social Security because she could not afford the health care associated with the cancer that she had. So she, in essence, developed this fight and struggle mindset, a fight and struggle mindset where she had to fight for everything and struggle for everything. And even when she became well and she moved out here to Florida and rented a place and started to rebuild her life, she still had that fight and struggle mindset. And I talked to her about this. I basically said, you know what, this, I could just see it unfolding and continue to unfold. And today, after about, I don't know, she's gone from job to job and job to job, she's probably on about her 8th job, a 9th job right about now in the past 5 years. It's not because it's interesting because I think it's tied to this fight and struggle mindset, because she wants what she deserves. She wants to get paid what she's worth. And there's always employers trying to get you for as little as possible, but they want the most from you. And she likes to work on commission because she really helps to build a business. And she gets disrespected, and there's nepotism involved, and there's all these little things. There's always something. And she calls me. I said, you know what? How much of this is tied to this fight and struggle mindset? It's just really, really strange. I'd like to have your comments on Glenn, on a fight and struggle mindset.
It's funny. Over the last couple of days, I've listened to, in this case, a couple of women tell me their beliefs. So yesterday, this one woman was telling me about the other woman. She was saying she could only get along with men for 3 weeks, and that's all she could do. And for 3 weeks. And what's that?
Doesn't the fight and struggle mindset, a survival mindset, doesn't that color every decision you make, the way you look at events? Because I noticed this in this particular person, that the way that she perceives a situation that's unfolded, an event, is from that lens. It's through that lens of fight and struggle, like scarcity. Like, I need to make sure that this doesn't happen because I need to make sure it doesn't cost me anything. I need to make sure that when I was moving out, I was renting to her. And when I was moving out, all the questions were surrounding, does the new owner know about this? Because I don't want to have to pay for that. Do they know this belongs to me, so I don't have to have this issue? Do they know that? I'm going, wow, this is like, yeah, but everything. And I looked at her and I said, do you know that your conversation, all your questions are framed around scarcity, around the fear of not having, the fear of somebody taking away from you, something away from you? Are you familiar that this is the way this is? And her job is like that. So where do you think this, in your view, where does this come from?
Well, it's like, it's almost like getting frostbite or something. You know, when you have frostbite, your body responds in a certain way, and the nervous system kind of remembers. So it's so that there's this idea that, which I feel is accurate, that when animals get trauma, they discharge it. They cry, they run, they shake. And somehow, as humans, what we do is we go back to the mall, or we shop. Or in some sense, we don't. Like in some ways, you're observing something about her system that she may not observe because she's so in it. Right?
Yeah,
she's so in that.
Knee deep in it. Yeah.
So there was a book I read a long time ago, but his whole thing is that people don't age. You know, they don't get old because they age. So what happens is they get more stuck in this emergency response. The emergency response is kind of like the head, the shock response. Your head comes forward or it jars back. And so the idea is that after a while, I mean, you've been around people, you say one thing, and you didn't really say anything. You mentioned the garage door, and they get all upset, right?
That trigger.
Yeah, they get startled.
Yeah.
Trigger response. So, I mean, I've seen this in, you know, this is why I feel like relationally, it's so tricky to like open your heart and your soul to someone if you've had a really bad breakup, because it's, in some sense, your system, it freezes up a little bit. And then the mind, so it's the heart first, but then the mind, the brain, you could say, is really about survival. So the brain, to the brain, it almost doesn't make, the brain has one thing in mind, it's survival. And you could say the more conscious we become, or the more, in a sense, the heart, I feel like it informs the brain. And we also realize, in some sense, we're not limited by the brain. But this is, you know, I think, and the best way we could share this, I think, and I think what you do in your life, because you're so compassionate and you give to people, you kind of support them, and that's what I love about you. You're very congruent. Like you don't, whoever this person is, I could see you wouldn't put her down. You know, you wouldn't. You know what I mean? So that's another factor that's in life. Another, you know, that was the whole subject of that movie. It's called The Razor's Edge with Bill Murray.
Right.
Just a brilliant movie. Kind of gets her safe again. He gets her safe, and he kind of reminds her that she's a good human being, and he moves her out of the house, the prostitution or the drug lords, and everything's good. Like he's got the brain lock with her, right? The harmony brain thing. Right. And they go to that party, and one of the women makes a nasty comment to her while Bill's in the bathroom. And it's a razor edge because she takes that comment to heart, and then that's it, dead. So so one of the things we don't learn, we talked about earlier how we don't learn diplomacy. We don't. We really don't learn that we got this kind of incredible piece, this instrument, and it's wired in this brilliant way. But part of how it's wired too is to survive. So as we live from survival and the threat of you know, lower than survival, it's very hard to let down and let these other higher impulses, the other wisdom move through us. You know, and
it's a very good point. I think the concept of, I mean, with this particular person, I observe and I just make her aware of what I'm observing. Her inner conversation is centered around fight and struggle, the way she forms questions, the way that she looks at her job. You know, her job currently, it's another case where I got a text from her the other day, and I'm looking for a new job. She's had this one for 2 months, and it was going to be the perfect job. And it happens to be, again, an individual, independent owner who is an artist and not really a business person so much as an artist who is in business and has an art gallery. And I mean, this particular person, this individual, this young lady is so creative. She is communicative. She has such a personality. And I've always said, you know, your personality is, she's a persuasive, yet she's not a metal person. I think she's a water person is what she is. And what makes it interesting for her is that all of her dialogue, all of her, and for years it's been this way. I've watched her go from she used to be a whole lot worse than she is now in terms of her dialogue of lack and scarcity. And you know, her car, when she talks about her automobile, you know, I hope it doesn't go out of me because that's going to cost me a fortune. It's money I don't have. And it's like, I said, look, here's an interesting process. It's a process to manifesting what you want in your life. There's a process. Number one, you have to believe you have it now. Whatever it is, you have to have clarity about what you want, and then you have to believe you have it now, which is the part that is the hitch and the giddy up for most people. That's the catch-22, so to speak, where they somehow fail to be able to believe that that they can even think. It doesn't cost anything to think that you have it now. It's not something you're going to go out espousing. You know, I've got $1 zillion and I can do whatever I want. Right. This is a personal thing. It's a personal thing in believing that you have what you want, that you have everything you need right now, in this moment. I have everything I need. For her, in the fight and struggle mindset, it's all about, am I going to have enough? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do that? How am I going to make sure that I can pay my rent this month? And blah, blah. And a couple of months, about 4 months ago, she left one job. She got let go. And she kind of freelanced. It's kind of interesting. She was dog sitting, right. A combination of dog sitting, house sitting, and doing personal errand kind of work. And I told her, I said, here's the interesting thing about it. When I reflected upon those couple of months before she got a different job, I said, you know, here's the interesting thing. Do you know that as much worrying as you did, that you actually made it? You made the rent plus whatever you needed. You always had enough in those 2 months, and you didn't have a solid job, and you're working on it. But you know, she's a person that lives, and when you're knee deep in this, every moment you're afraid to actually be happy, because you don't know what comes next. Mm. You're afraid to be happy. Mm. You're afraid to be joyous in that moment because you don't have a place to go tomorrow. You don't know where your next dollar is coming from. You have to believe it's coming, because that's part of, you know, prosperity thinking, is that you have enough and you'll be taken care of. And that is a real chore for people, especially now in this day and age. It's a chore to think about that aspect of it. And I know when it comes to relationship, you're a relationship guru with your soul-to-soul matchmaking, an incredible concept of relationalness, about relating, not dating, but relating. And the scarcity aspect, this fear of not having someone in your life, it's pervasive as well in our society. Just speak to that really quickly, that aspect of scarcity when it comes to having someone fulfilling and joyous and passionate in your life.
Well, for one thing, the obstructions of the beliefs are so strong. I was talking to a woman yesterday who she was very happy her daughter was going to get married, mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think she didn't know. She had 2 relationships that didn't work out. And so what happened, you know, it's really interesting. What happens is to believe something, to believe it, and go past our brains is such a, you know, it's a real, it's so different than how we're schooled. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Neville, who wrote on this topic extensively, like Neville said, you know, wrote a book called Your Faith is Your Fortune. And
right. That's excellent title.
Excellent. Oh yeah, great title. Yeah. But he always gave these incredible examples. But I think, and he gave lectures in New York City at these big arenas, and that was his thing, to be able to feel that feeling. Like, he gives examples of people, because he was sold out so much when he come to New York, and somehow they'd slip in the theater. And Neville said, how did that occur? And they would say, well, I went to sleep, like you say, and I slept in the feeling. And I realized that. So when I say about the
slept in the feeling of faith, that
yeah, exactly. In other words, yeah, they really slept. They have kind of rested in the Sabbath. You know, the idea of the Sabbath is pretty beautiful. It's really about resting in something. You could say resting in the divine, resting in the universe, God, mm-hmm. and you know, it gets back to the whole idea. We don't need to know how or why, and so it kind of opens up a third place that's different than, that's different than what we could look at. I mean, what's kind of interesting is Bates wrote a book called Seeing Without Your Glasses. One of his big points in that book, which is fascinating, was that we're so used to looking in this way, we get very strained.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying it's not really about the physical eye, we just strain. And so I've talked to people about this through the years, and they'll say, oh yeah, my seeing's much better in the summer. Because in the summer, for a lot of people, they don't got a non-student, let's say, they don't have to do all this. There's all this kind of, so what happens is very quickly, we think about life, we get raised to do, to have, and to be, to do. So our values are on our doing, then having and being. But really it's be. The whole universe lives in you.
Mm-hmm.
So relationally, when you're in being with someone, and it's not about what you've done or, like all those pressures, that's why dating, I think, is so challenging for people. It makes them, it's like they got to almost perform the date. Because I honestly don't know how to date. I don't want to date. I don't know how to date. I always make it a point to tell whoever I'm going to see, I'm not dating you. Please know that.
I'm not dating you.
I'm not dating you. I wouldn't want to date.
Isn't there a connotation, though, that pops to mind when it comes to the word date? When people say, oh, I'm going out on a date. It's like, well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. There's a definition of that most people have in their minds when it comes to date.
Yeah.
And it gets in the way of relating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It becomes this wall because now you have this sort of like this structured script that you have to follow. There's certain protocols to that script, and it just mucks everything up, right? So your concept of soul-to-soul matchmaking, go into that just in detail, in a little brief detail. Because that's part of this whole struggling thing, this whole going from surviving to thriving. It's something that actually creeps into every aspect of our lives, whether it's financial work, relationships, whatever. If you're just surviving, you have this feeling, of course, that you're never going to know whether you're going to find somebody or not. So you're like overdoing, working too hard, so hard that there's no inspiration. And the person who you're supposed to be with could walk right by you and bump you in the shoulder, and you'd never know it because you're so knee deep into this myopic focus of I'm never going to have, right? Yeah. So in that concept, just briefly outline, because I think it's a brilliant concept, soul to soul. It's totally different. It's not eHarmony and all that other kind of stuff. This is something very simple. Just describe what it is.
Well, for one thing, at any moment we exist in two states.
Mm-hmm.
So one state is this vital song, this very alive song. It runs through our body. There's a certain amount of carefreeness to it. We feel like we're in tune with the infinite. We're in tune with life. And that's something that we all have, that vital song. And what happens is, we little by little, we defer to another song, but it's almost like it's not a song, but it's more like a counterfeit song, or it's not that vital song. It's more like we're thinking about life rather than living the life. And one of my teachers used to say, are you thinking or thinking or seeing? Because really when you're in life and you're seeing, it's a whole different experience than you're thinking. Am I going to make it with this person? Thinking. Am I in relationship? Like kind of sensing the person. Mm-hmm. So the idea of soul to soul is to let people be in the match around that sense of what they would call soul or connection. And what's really fun about it is it's a mystery to all of us. There's a mystery, and yet we've all been touched in some way. It could be a baby, it could be a tree. There's things that touch us there. And since relationship is not, you don't have to have a huge rational thing about your relationship. You can be touched. So the first thing I want to get people to pay attention to is to get them curious, of course, and then I want to get them into this idea that when you're in this vital match, when you're soul to soul, it's kind of like you're in this you're in this union. It's kind of like when you're kids and you play. There's a certain union going on, and then what's kind of interesting, and the other aspect of this, which I get into with some people, is that our culture is very sympathetic. Our sympathetic nervous system is our flight or fight system. We're very wound up. And so what happens is intimacy-wise, sexual-wise, we actually relate from the sympathetic a lot. Well, this other system, this is an interesting thing I discovered. So in this other system, the parasympathetic or the deeper system, when we actually make love from there, we actually regenerate our physical hearts together. And it ends the bond. So this is a very interesting thing because unless you're unusual, very few people grow up with their parents have this deep, let's say, or whoever raised you has this deep sense of deep relationship. And so what we tend to do is we perpetuate the known. And we perpetuate the known, we rarely ever give the person a chance. I mean, usually we give people the most chance and very early on. We give them the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And then what I say is that people don't divorce each other, ever. What they divorce or what they separate from is the graven image, the thing they don't like in the other person. Because in the beginning, if you think about it, we don't really judge them that much. We just kind of touched on, oh, that's interesting. They're wearing a pink hat and they got, bells on their shoes. Like, it's kind of like endearing or beautiful. And then, a couple of years, it's like, it's annoying. How could they do that? You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's annoying. If you watch it,
like what you I think I've heard somebody say, what you used to be in love with, now you hate. What adorned you, adorned you to them is a thing that now you can't stand.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the whole concept of relationships that we're going to go into definitely a little deeper in another show, because of the fact that it's such an issue. I mean, this person I know at least 3 or 4 women who are all single. They'd love to be with someone. They'd love to find someone. However, what's holding them back is this whole dynamic of this discord, this protocol that they feel they have to go through to see a guy, be a guy. They do this judgment thing. And the judgment thing leads to this laundry list, and then they start checking off the laundry list. And then if it's only partially completed, they don't go any farther. And so I think a lot of people approach the getting to know someone, the relating aspect. They don't even get to the relating because they've already made all these judgments. Judgments are made out of fear, worry, concern, scarcity, survival. I mean, all of these things going through their head. And what I notice is that none of these women, and I talked to all, and I asked them this question: how's it going with the relationship situation?
Yeah.
And they say, well, all of them give me these several guys that they've gone on dates with, and they say everything that was wrong with them and everything else. And I'm going, okay. And all of them are really, really incredible human beings. They're prosperous, they're well-read, they're in control of their lives. And I found this whole thing where the guys that they're going out with are afraid of these women. I mean, they're afraid. We're going to cover that down the road, because that's a whole topic all on its own. When one person is very powerful and prosperous and successful, and the other one is not. That's a whole dynamic. Now, again, the lack comes in. The scarcity, the lack of the fear of being with someone who has more than you, and or I have less than them, so I'm not worthy of them. It's just a whole picture that needs to be kind of corrected. The underlying aspect of everything we discuss is zero adversity, either clearing past, dealing with present, managing present, eliminating it in our everyday lives, or avoiding and preventing future adversity. And I think this whole relationship thing, the whole scarcity thing, it all deals with the present and the future, because it's all tied together. It's this aspect that we look at our lives, and when we're viewing it through the perspective of scarcity, and I am one who deeply understands that concept of scarcity. I've spent 32 years in a commission sales position where every month I basically generate the income that I end the month with. I have nothing at the beginning of the month. And this scares the heck out of people who need a paycheck, to know that they have that paycheck every 2 weeks, or to know what they're going to have at the end of the month. And you're an entrepreneur as well. We operate from a different level. We operate from a level of trust, a level of abundance in terms of thought, prosperity thinking. What we think is what we have. Change your self-talk, change your life. Your self-talk reflects your everyday experience. And I find the self-talk of people who have a scarcity thought process is definitely one that needs some help. Words like hard, tough, impossible, try, can't, all the never, when it comes to describing themselves and what they're involved in. And it happens in relationships. It happens in everyday life. It happens in our work environment. And it makes me wonder about because you're, like I said, you're incredibly well-read. The whole concept of thoughts are things. Let's just talk about that for a second, that your conversation, you're in a conversation, what you think about yourself really is reflected in not only the people that you meet, but the life you live, the experiences you have, the prosperity you experience. Kind of talk about that just a moment.
I will. You know, the soul to soul thing, I just want to say that kind of came from my unscripted power. So the idea that when we come unscripted, we get in touch with another embodiment. We get in touch with what moves us. And so I realized the most powerful thing really was relationships, the thing that turns me on, that touches me. And, you know, we asked about thoughts and things. You know, when I meet someone, and I teach this to people around soul-to-soul matchmaking, or educate them, is that the best thing you can be with someone is really what I call dropped in. You just want to kind of, you want to get a sense you're moving into this other place in your body physically. And, you know, it's a place of curiosity. And so it's almost like when you're in coherence with someone, you know, I mean, I tell you something, Michael, the most beautiful things that people have said to me over the last few months, this one woman said to me, you know, we've only talked an hour, and she says, well, it's been like years.
Right.
Another woman said to me, she said, well,
great compliment.
Yeah, I know. And I love that. I'm really, it's so feeding to have that. I love that. I think what it is I think those kinds of connections feed our nervous system. They feed our being. And then we have the sense we can make it with people. So when we meet people who refuse to breathe around us, it's kind of like we realize, well, you get a sense of discernment then. You get a sense that some people are too, you know, I mean, it's funny, there was this one woman I was very close with, and she would call just to yell at me, and curses, and she would yell, and then she'd call me, and she says, wow, she goes, she would just call me up and just tell me how much she loves me, because, like she says, like being around me, all these things would come up. And so to get back to thoughts and things, so how I see thinking and thoughts is that we have a live stream of real thinking, or there's a big thought. Like with you, I see the way you live. There's this big thought, this energy thought, that's not dead thinking. So like pretty much most of your thoughts are like dead, they're mechanical, you've had them before, nothing new. But then there's some thoughts, there's a pulsation, there's an energy, and those thoughts, they're from something higher than your brain.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these are all kind of like, no one's ever sat us down, you know, but we know in life, if we watch people and we listen to what they're saying, we know they're referencing stuff. Well, like as an example, the woman who, you know, when she came home, she was 65 and her son was underneath the car. He had been trapped. And she ran and she just didn't think about it. She pulled the car off him. She was 65.
Right. Got an adrenaline rush, knew what she had to do, had the intention, clarity of thought.
Yeah. You know, her response was, when I asked her about it, she said, well, she was really angry. And they said, why? And she said, well, I'm really happy I saved my son. But she goes, I realize I live with this big energy. I rarely access it. And so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
How many people do that? It's like you've got this, you know, we're gonna keep being drugged back into the relationship issue, because relationship is at the core of everything we do. The abundance, the prosperity, that's all out there, but it's about relationships, because abundance and prosperity aren't just money. They're about having abundance of friendships, abundance of love in our life, of compassion, passion, empathy, you know, friendships, that sort of thing, as well as obviously maybe somebody that we're even more deeply passionate and intimate with. And I find that with regard to what you just said, that there's a lot to do, you know, surviving to thriving. Many people are simply just surviving. They're not tapping their full potential, which will enable them to thrive in life on a daily basis. And that aspect of not using the power of our self-talk, the power of our mind, the power of our bodies, the power of our beings, so to speak, on a daily basis. What are we doing? About 10% of that, maybe 5% we're using. How do we use more?
Well, you know, I was sitting in this room. It was the beginning of a class, and they asked us to pick someone and massage their face. So I'm sitting across this woman. She's probably 35, and she has so much metal in her face. You know, she has rings here and this spike.
Oh,
you know.
gosh, yes.
A lot of metal. I remember, I just said, one thing, I could find enough skin to massage your face. And we talked afterwards, and she just said to me, it's so few people want to touch her or be around her. Like, they see that medal, they're like, well, I'm out of here, like. And
it does send a message to most people. I realize that it's tribal in nature. Well, no. On one hand, it's tribal, and the other half, it's not. It's tribal, yet it's not being individual. It's being tribal. People say, "Oh, it's my individual. I'm just expressing my individuality." But basically, they're not the only one in the world who has metal in their face or tattoos on their body. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I had this experience the other night. It might be relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
So I'm talking to this woman, and she totally wants to find a partner. And from the beginning of the call till she got off, she's telling me how it's almost impossible.
Right. Oh, there's that word again. It's impossible.
What's that?
Impossible. Written across.
Yeah.
It'll never happen.
She was saying that people lie on the sites. The men she's contacted, it's not their real picture. I mean, it's kind of like the beginning of a movie. She's just going on and on and on.
Right.
And she's about to make a lot of money if this thing goes through. So like millions of dollars. Then she's like, well, how do I know if they love me then? And she lives at this big house up in New Hampshire. And of course she wants to find a man to come to this place in New Hampshire. No, it's interesting. She's going on. And of course, when I'm kind of listening to her, I'm thinking, wow, she just has so many beliefs. Like in some ways, she's so into these beliefs that at a certain point, she tells me this one story that sticks to me. Mm-hmm. And the story was that I guess she had one cat. She's kind of a cat person. I'm not really a cat person. I'm seeing the best I could do around this. So,
which I've got one
cat she had used to, before it ate the meal, had the food, it would totally go up and acknowledge her for the food. It would rub her.
Right.
And she said always. And now she has I guess a relative of this cat and does the same thing. And there was a moment where she told me that story, and I thought, wow, she could see relationalness there. Mm-hmm. But then she thinks about the hard world of like what it's like, with online dating, and it's so hard. Like listening to her, if I was my first time on the planet, I would think it'd be impossible to get a mate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
She's got so many thought viruses operating within her consciousness, and her self-talk is also very, very negative with regard to that. What did you suggest to her?
In those situations, I think I just, I was kind of playful with her. I might, in those situations, I might say to her, I said, well, have you thought about Mars? Or, I might just say something that pops her a little bit. You know what I mean?
You want to disrupt that thought process. You want to disrupt that negativity, that negative train going down. You want to derail.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's on the train.
So you want to shock her with something.
Yeah. I want to kind of. I mean, I love doing this with people anyway because I'm an improvisational artist and I love it. I've just turned my friend on to improv, and he loves it. It took him years. He used to not like it at all. His thing with improv is if you did that in the inner city, you get killed. And I said, no, it's an art. You got to feel people. You don't just go in and do something.
That's true.
So
you have a foundation, but you go in and just work on that.
Yeah, when you relate to someone, they actually send you signals. They kind of give you some feedback. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're, and some people. I mean, I did this one time. I saw my friend with someone he was dating at a restaurant, and I just walked in. There was the maitre d'. From my being, I was the maitre d', and before I left, I said, you guys have won a hot tub, compliment to the house, and I totally misread her. I really misread her. So I think when she found that I was kidding, she couldn't accept it. She goes, but I won that hot tub, So I actually ended up paying for a hot tub that night. I remember thinking like, okay, Glenn, this woman's just freaking out, and sadly enough, she actually ended up losing her life. She was kind of in a very altered. She wasn't really healthy. She took in a sense, a lot of her life was emergencies. And it was interesting because at the time, my friend was attracting a lot of people like that in his life. And it was, I think in life, it's like each moment is so precious. Mm-hmm. And to go beyond our thinking into this other quality of thought. Sid Banks was one of my friends. He passed away, but that was one of his big things is, he called it, his thing is that life is about thought, consciousness, and mind. And what he meant by mind is this big mind, that we could tap into it.
Yeah, super mind.
Supermind, yeah.
Collective consciousness, so to speak. Collective consciousness.
And with couples, as a couple thinketh in the heart together. I mean, I think the greatest gift of relationship is you get to raise together. You get to be in this, it's like seeing in a new place of the mountain together.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this place of wonder, and clearly it kind of gives you this, it kind of gives life meaning. It gives you another level of meaning. So relationalness is something we're not really taught, and yet we all crave it. And I think we create these obstacles, and part of how we do that is we relationship for a lot of people is on the outside in, mm-hmm. rather than the inside out. So when so if you look at people describe relationships, it seems to me that all these people have exes who say they're bipolar. They know more than psychopharmacologists and therapists, because they seem to have all these fixations around their ex, rather than, you know what, I'm in this configuration with someone, and things are going to come up to dissolve. Mm-hmm. The poison's the cure, and that we're actually discovering a new place together, and no one's educated us. So in some ways, we're like warring tribes, the thought viruses. But when we go beyond this, we begin to get this new coherence together, and kind of harmony. And it's, this guy, I don't know, this guy named David D'Angelis. He's a very big marketer, mm-hmm. and he's giving a talk at the Burning Man.
Right.
And it was a windstorm, and this woman just comes up to him and she says, she goes, I hear you, like you're a bird on a branch. And she goes, I hear your song. And she goes, I love you. And they got married really quickly. And he was saying the first few months were just so turbulent. Like, he was saying it was just part of this process of them like settling in. Now mm-hmm. now it's a few years.
It's like jockeying for position, so to speak.
What's that?
Jockeying for position.
Yeah, I think
so. Don't know where they are. They're kind of, it's go ahead, because it's interesting.
Well, I mean, I guess what I kind of got from that, because I realized in some of my relationships, I realized that very quickly, if you're like, I tend to be a little bit of a fire type, and I can be stubborn. That
I know about you.
What's that?
That is true. That is true.
So I tend to be stubborn, and one of my best friends, he's sort of a fire type. So it's kind of interesting if I want to flame things up, I can say certain things to him, and then I realize, it's just part of the fire right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to throw a log on right now. So it's kind of like, okay, we get together, and then you're kind of like, like if you were another fire type, walking by the water, like start getting a sense of like, how do you create this other bridge with them? So the thing is, match is a beautiful thing, but the match that most people get in is a script match.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So the best way to love someone is go beyond the script.
I agree with you 110%, which, this whole conversation is the reason why this show is called Beyond the 3D, because the 3D world is the drama, the fear, the worry, the concern, the survival, the fight and struggle. That's the world that most people are familiar with. And what we're going to be discussing in these shows is how to rise above that, to just look down upon it and see it for what it is. It's drama. It's stuff that you really don't need in your life, and that when you change your thought processes and you change your level of awareness and just get some new life tools that you can work with, like, how to master your inner conversation, the tactics involved with that, steps involved with that, eliminating the adversity in your life, which is what a lot of drama and the fear, worry, and concern is a part of. Then you can rise above it, and you can see life in a different way, and you can react and respond to things with intention, clarity, and purpose, instead of just default reactions, patterned steps that you go through they're ingrained in you because it's all you know. It's all you know. So this whole concept of going from in a relationship sense and from just walking and going through the motions of dating or being in a situation where you need to make more income, you yearn to make more income, you just haven't created the intention about how you're going to do that yet. But it all begins up here in both places, right? It begins in your mind. It begins by examining your inner conversation and what you're saying and thinking about yourself and what you're telling others about you, because that self-talk process is incredibly important in relationships, especially. You walk up to somebody, if you're thinking, I'm not worthy, or this person has more than I do. Am I really worthy of having a relationship with this person?
Yeah.
And you get stuck in the facts of what do they do, where they live, and you
Right.
start jockeying for figuring out whether or not you're a match from that perspective.
Yeah.
It's basically, that's it. You're throwing the whole relationalness out the window. Now, one last thing here about relationships. What do you think about the aspect of being of not approaching every situation from the standpoint of is this going to be my forever person? Because that could muck things up as well. What do you think about that? But developing a relationship.
I thought it was interesting, Michael, that you pointed here.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask people to think, I ask them to think, point to the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is where the conversation comes from for most people. It's not down here.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Well, the survival conversation comes. I tend to think that the heart generates, and the gut, and we're discovering now the gut has so much intelligence.
True.
Right? So, I think it's something that, as human beings, that, look, I forgot who I was just listening to, but I really appreciate when someone shares their insecurities. Like, it really helps me to realize other human beings have these, like you talked about, being an entrepreneur. See, as an entrepreneur, the things that I do for some people are so foreign.
True.
Like, they don't have a sense of adventure with it. They have a sense of dread. So I always appreciate when we have the conversation, because I certainly appreciate, wow, you do that too. And it's like when Richard Branson said he didn't know the difference between gross and net in his 50s, I was like, wow, I just love this guy. I mean, I appreciate.
Yeah.
He speaks awesome. Like a human being to me. I get it.
He's an artist, a visionary.
Yeah, he is exactly. He's an artist.
He doesn't need to know what the difference in gross and net is. Other people need to know that, but not him.
Exactly.
I think things up. I envision. I create. I'm inspired to create things, and that's not the little minutia of the how and the why and whether it makes financial sense at the time doesn't even come into play. It's sort of like an afterthought. You heard the story about how he basically started his airline.
No.
He was in Florida looking to go to, I think it was Florida, he was in the United States looking to go back to the UK, and he and his friends got bumped. They got bumped, disrespected, bumped, right? And he said, hey, we'll get back. Why don't we see how much it is to charter a plane to go back and see who else in this airport got bumped and wants to go too.
He's so brilliant.
And he said, wow, I think we can make a go of this, because that's what they did. He chartered a plane, got a lot of people to chip in to pay for it who wanted to get back as well, business people and otherwise, people who were disgruntled. And his whole thing is, how can I do this better? How can I do this better? And I'm sure he applies that whole concept to his relationship and his friendships and everything else. How can I be a better friend? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? To this, thinking from the higher level instead of wallowing in the things that are going on and being reactive. He's thinking a little bit more on the high side of things, and he's one of my heroes. I know he's one of yours. And there's very few entrepreneurs out there, CEOs or otherwise, that think along those lines. It's all about the other things that with him, every person who works with him is an ambassador to his company. The person who sells a ticket over the phone is the ambassador. That is the person. That person's more important than the manager, someone who doesn't talk to people, because that person is the one who conveys the company platform. And he wants that person to feel like they're included in the whole situation, that they are the ambassador, that they are the first point of contact. Yeah. Now imagine if we just simply apply that to the people that we meet, our relationships, right? Basically, that every relationship that we make with someone, this is the way I live my life. It's very, very simple, and I absolutely love it, and I have so much fun with it, and I know you do the same thing. I don't care who it is I encounter. Mm-hmm. I treat them as if they're the most important person in the world at that moment. Mm-hmm. At that moment, I want to engage with them. I want to find out how they feel about things. When my girlfriend and I go out to places that we frequent, I want to know who the people are serving. I want to know their names. I want to know why they're there. I want to know if they love what they do.
And you often answer they have a criminal record, I believe.
No, don't even ask that.
Okay, so that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Well, that's also a past form of adversity that someone may be getting over, right?
Exactly.
So, that's not important because that's going to, I know you're joking, but a lot of people, they want to know that because they want to make a judgment about somebody.
Exactly.
And then that colors the whole conversation.
I want to say one of the books that really impacted me was a book called Love is Letting Go of Fear by Jerry Jampolsky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've got that one in the library over here. Yes, absolutely.
Jampolsky said, most of his life, there's two things happening. He's a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
He's got terrible back pain.
Right.
He reads these spiritual books, and he realizes that he just gets it, that he became a psychiatrist so that he could judge and punish people, basically. And so he was saying when he realized that, he started to be a conduit for soul or spirit, and his back pain went away. And he talked about what it was like to live not just without back pain. Actually, someone who was homeless went to see him one night. I didn't go to see him. He was in Maryland. And I remember this guy was living on the streets, and he just got a really nice shirt. He got a really nice outfit. And he went to see Jerry Jampolsky. And he sat in the back of the room. And I know this to be true of Jerry, what I'm about to tell you, because I just know this is what he lives from. He's kind of like you in this way. So Jerry's getting off the stage. Oh, I didn't say this. The guy went to the lecture, and he was really admiring Jerry's tie. There's like 300 people, and Jerry's getting off the podium, undoing his tie. He walks directly up to the guy in the back of the room who just got off the streets. He gives him the tie. He goes, "Holy Spirit told me to give you this."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had a story that I wanted. I thought you and the viewers would love this, because it's so much about. There's two levels that go on every moment: the circumstance and something beyond the circle. The 3D and something beyond the 3D.
Right.
So on the 3D level, what happens is I run out of gasoline because I took a risk. I went another 10 miles, and I'm like short of the gasoline station.
Oh my gosh!
And the comedy begins. The comedy begins, and I've done this before. So I go to the gasoline station, and sure enough, they actually have a gas can. So I'm like, great, give me the gas can. No matter what I did, no matter what direction I put the sucker in, I couldn't get it to. So I have a car club. So I call the car club, and I call Allstate. I got to plug them. So I call Allstate, and they said, no problem. We have you covered. We'll have someone out, whatever it was, 45, 60 minutes. And I said, great. That went on. Oh, another thing that was happening that day was it was a hot day, and people are coming in and out. And I realized that it was just interesting I realized on one level I was kind of a little in the 3D of it. I was annoyed a little bit that this happened. Because, the part of your mind that says, oh, you should have done this different. I love when people say that to you. You should do something, you should do it different. It's like, well, that's impossible, actually. I did what I did, here I am.
Too late now. I am where I am, right?
And here I am, right, yeah. So what happens is I remember calling Allstate back several times, and I always have this thing like press 1, and 1 never would work. Like it was the same game, press 1. So finally, basically they're telling me, you know what? The deal that we thought we had, we don't have. So now it's an hour and 10 minutes later. And I forgot what I did in this. I walked back to the car, and all of a sudden this guy comes up to me. He says, you need some help? And I said, yeah. And then there was like 3 other guys. Next thing I know, they pushed me to the gasoline station. And I'm like, I went beyond the 3D. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the 4 guys appear, because it's a heavy car, I have a Saab. And they appear, and I'm thinking, like, this is so interesting, because on one level, the 3D of it, if I told the story without the guys, it's all that struggle and how Allstate didn't show up. And
right.
Kind of like this moment we have where it's like we go beyond the 3D, and then something occurs, and it's usually so good and so touching. And I was kind of like, wow, this is so. I was so grateful. I was so grateful about that happening, and that gratitude, I think, keeps us out of the 3D. And also, it gives. I mean, Jampolsky went into that in that beautiful book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. How you go in a restaurant, and it's like you don't know that the woman's husband just passed away because she seems grumpy. So he's kind of saying, well, like, shift your perception. See when people are upset, they're crying out for love. They don't think they're being personal to you.
It's true. So I think we're all. I mean, I like to say we come from love, we seek love, and then go back to love.
Yeah.
Because really, it's and love and relationship. Love is a string that goes through everything. It's a thread that's woven through everything in our lives. And when we lose that love, it's not lost forever. It's just misplaced. We're just focusing on something completely different. And we have to come back to that. It's like the mean in our lives, So this has been a wonderful conversation. We're going to continue this in part 2.
Am I going to live in this office, by the way? I'm just curious of that. Well, I have a location there now because I'm an essential part of this. I'm just wondering, like, how this is going to work out, because I'm excited. This is like a new energy for me.
It's a new energy for me as well. This Zoom.us is an incredible conferencing mechanism, and I'm looking to use it to do a lot of really cool things. And these conversations are something we normally have on the phone, and they're so expansive, so amazing, that I just want to have a mechanism to bring them to viewers and basically save them into perpetuity. That's really perpetuity. That's the whole idea behind this, is to create these conversations that I believe can have tremendous value to people and give them access to them forever. So this is the first episode of Beyond the 3D. There'll be many, many more. And this is my friend Glenn Brooks. Glenn, you've been absolutely awesome. Glenn, you've got a website. I know we got to.
It's going upwards. I guess it's up. It's Unscripted Power. All one word. Unscriptedpower.com.
Perfect. I'm at michaeljruss.com. Check out Zero Adversity, my book on Amazon, international best-selling book, where you can touch on a lot of these topics and help you eliminate adversity in your life. Until the next episode, I'm Michael Russ. I'm
Glenn Brooks. Your life's precious. Enjoy. And I want to thank you. I sense that you're viewing this, and I only wish in some ways that I love these kind of resources. They're so wonderful.
Yeah, we're looking to do something new. Yeah, absolutely. Ciao.
One conversation is it. Just take one conversation, let it purify you, let it open you.
I think it's awesome. We're going to have a great time, my friend. Please take care.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.